Welcome to Talking Buffalo, featuring conversations with guests from around the world of sports, media, pop culture, and all things Buffalo. With your host, Patrick Moran.
What is going on, everybody? How you doing? Welcome to another episode and a new week of Talking Buffalo, your weekday daily driver for Buffalo sports talk and more. My name is Patrick Moran. Thank you very much, as always, for watching, for following, listening, subscribing. Appreciate y'all very much. Like I said, this is a new week here, which means our Monday episode. I am joined, as usual, by my very optimistic Bills training camp enthusiast right down here, Joe from Queens. What's up, man? How you doing?
Living the dream, man. Living the dream. How you doing?
Good. I actually, before we get into some Bills talk, which today we're going to kind of focus on some, I say, exciting storylines. I know nothing about camp is exciting to you, but some of the more important and things you are going to be looking forward to seeing how they play out over the course of the next handful of weeks. We'll spend some time talking about that. We'll also have a little bit of Sabres talk thrown in here as well. The Sabres have been really busy over the past week. But I was telling you right before we hit record here, so we're recording this on a Sunday night, and a pretty cool thing for me. I just got back from Sports City Pizza Pub. Shout out to those guys, by the way. Got some wings and some pizza.
Well, shocking. My wife. You got some wings and pizza, this guy. Do you ever eat anywhere that's not a pizza wing place ever?
Not often.
Have you ever had Chinese food? Have you ever had Japanese?
I have. I hate it. I don't like Chinese food.
Indian food. Have you had that before?
Nope.
Have you had Colombian food?
No.
You've had Mexican, I'm assuming. I'm sure you were a big Chi-Chi's guy back in the day.
I did eat some Mexican food, like tacos and stuff like that.
Italian, you definitely like.
I love Italian food. Yeah, Italian's my.
Okay, Irish. You're an Irish prick, so I'm assuming you like Irish food.
Sure, for sure.
Okay, so you got three food groups. This guy over here. Okay, beautiful. Yeah,
pizza, wings, and chicken. Those are the three things I probably eat about 85% of the time. But anyway, so I went up there with my wife to for some wings and pizza. I've been there a bunch. I enjoy going there, but this time specifically, it was for a cool reason. Three former teachers of mine from Lafayette High School, shout out Lafayette High School, West Side. I'm making myself old here, and I don't give a shit, man. 35 years ago, Joe, I graduated from high school 35 years ago. It was the class of 1989. So yeah, it's been a long time. Anyway,
wow.
Three teachers that were teachers of mine in high school. Two of them still live in the Buffalo area, and one of them lives in California. He was in town for the week, and they got together, and one of the teachers sent me a text asking to come up. Some, former students, a couple showed up. But anyway, Mr. Marinaccio, Mr. Bush, Mr. Majori, three teachers of mine from 35 years ago, still alive, still well, still kicking. Awesome to see. Do you have any?
Did you tell them to subscribe to your podcast after you said hi to them?
Two of them are friends of mine, or one of them's friends of mine on Facebook. The other one's not a Facebook friend of mine, but he knows about the show. He's watched the show plenty of times. It was actually
Is he a fan of mine? Does he like me?
He did not mention you specifically. No, I'm sorry, he did not. And it was, nice little ego boost there to have them talk up the show a little bit. But anyway, it's just really cool to still have a relationship with somebody who taught you in high school 35 years ago. And one of the three is literally the first time. Now, the other two I've seen, I used to bartend in Cheektowaga, and the guy was in town, and they came up for a couple drinks, maybe like 8-9 years ago, something like that. But the other teacher, Mr. Majori, is literally the first time I've seen him since I graduated high school all the way back in 1989. So anyway, it was fun to meet up with them, have a conversation with them, just talk to them. Makes me feel young. Not a lot of things make me feel young anymore, but to have teachers who are 25 years older than me makes me feel a little bit young. You don't have that. I take it you don't really have a relationship with any of your high school teachers.
Absolutely not. Note. I was not a giant fan of my high school.
No, where'd you go to high school?
There was one teacher named Mr. Gross who taught economics, social studies in high school. He wasn't bad. I dug him. Everyone else, I had nuns. They were a pain in the ass. High school? O'Hara. Cardinal O'Hara.
Oh, okay. All right. So you went to Catholic school.
It was kind of like a ragtag school where we had like, there's a bunch of people. I was like the only person from Amherst in my class. Like a lot of people came from Tonawanda, North Buffalo, and different parts of the city. So I kind of felt a little bit of an outsider because I came from Richie, douchey Amherst, even though I wasn't a fan of Amherst all that much. But yeah, that was kind of it. It was no school spirit. I think like 20 people went to our prom. I didn't go to my prom.
It is a small school.
Yeah, it was small. Our class was really bad. Like everyone hated us. The teachers did.
I could be wrong. So I mean, it's possible I'm wrong, but I
probably are wrong. You're always wrong. Go ahead.
I feel like O'Hara became an all-girls school at some point. Maybe I'm wrong.
No, I don't think so. I mean, it was co-ed. That was part of the reason why I went there, because I was like, oh, it's co-ed. I'm not going to Joe's. We have a bunch of dudes. I'm gonna go and see girls, and they didn't like me at all. So it didn't matter.
I could be wrong. I think it might be an all-female school nowadays. Yeah. Anyway, it was just, I don't know. It just kind of
a lot of those Catholic schools shut down, like Holy Angels. I think Mount St. Mary's is gone, and
O'Hara's still there for sure, because their girls' high school basketball team is like one of the best in the state. It has been for at least a couple of years, so I know that it's still around. I just feel like at this point, I think it might be an all-girls school. But anyway, man, like I said, man, it's just really cool to have a chance to
pander to your teachers 35 years ago, pandering over here already.
They were positive influences on my life. They helped me develop
podcast skills.
Into the great young man, handsome man that I am today.
You're only like 5 years away from 60, so God bless.
A lot of my high school friends watch this shit. So anyway, shout out Mr. Majori, Mr. Bush, Mr. Marinaccio, especially Mr. Marinaccio, man. It's probably my favorite high school teacher.
You definitely made this man into what he is today, a loser. No, just kidding.
Come on, man. Before we dive into some bills, real quick, because you weren't on last week. You weren't on last week because you were at the arena for AEW for Forbidden Door, right?
Yes, or the arena in Long Island, to be specific.
Long Island, yeah.
I forgot what it's called. It's a new one. It's where the Islanders played. Opened a couple years ago. Really nice building. Like,
how was the show live? Real quick before we dive into Bill's talk. Like, how was the show live?
It was long, but it was great. It was fun. I got tickets there. We sat like in the like kind of like 100s, like lower.
Go with your wife?
Probably. Did I go with my wife? No. Like, my wife despises wrestling. She despises wrestling more than I despise training camp and the Bills Bro Beat. Like,
and golf.
And golf combined. I can't even, if it's on in the living room, it would be like if I was watching porn and she walked in, I got to turn the channel right away. Cause like she just lays into it and makes fun of it. So me and my one friend, Kevin, he's used to live in Astoria. He lives in DC. We used to watch AEW together for a good solid year. He would come over Wednesday nights. We drink and watch and complain about work. And he moved with his wife. And he came up for the show, and I got free tickets because I had an in there from TV stuff. But yeah, it was a fun show to watch. It's long. I mean, that's the thing about these Tony Khan shows. They it started at 7, like for wrestling, and it ended like at almost midnight. And as a dad that I'm up at 6:30 in the morning, I was like, okay, let's hurry this up. But
it's too long.
It was fun. It was good, and the main event was really fun. I enjoyed that. It's an interesting experience, AEW. It's different than WWE, where WWE is more about storytelling, bookings much better, whereas AEW is kind of they just kick out of everything, and it's definitely the in-ring product is I guess you could say it's better, it's different, but like there's some things they can work on, but the storytelling is not nearly as good. They got some good guys there, though, but I enjoyed it. I'll say this though, because I know no one cares about wrestling except Michael Partham, who's ever listening to him, and maybe someone else. But anyways, the arena is very nice there in Long Island. And I haven't been to a Sabres arena game since 2019. And all I hear is complaints about how the arena looks like a dump. And that arena in Long Island is very nice. It's very fancy. And like the way it is like the 100s, like the middle, like think of it as like center ice. We'll just say center ice to like the blue line. All of that, you get private access to like a bar, restroom.
Oh wow!
Everything, yeah, a bar. So you don't have to leave. Like we went up, we just went, and it's not like it's just like that's how the 100s are from like the blue line. Like I said, the blue lines to each other to the center ice, and it's really a beautiful stadium. Like they did a really good job. The food's really good there. It's expensive as all hell. Like it's
sure.
or you don't even want to know, but Yeah, it was a fun time. I enjoy going to live shows, and it was my first live show going as a dad. Of course, I didn't bring my kid or anything, but
I was gonna say, what the hell's the difference?
yeah, well, the difference is I wanted to go to bed very
That's
early.
all right. That's fair.
Like,
that's fair.
I was
fair.
dying.
That's fair.
But anyways, yeah, it was fun. It was a good show.
That's cool.
Did you watch it? Did you watch last week when Heyman went through the table at that was great. He is so shout out to him. I am LinkedIn connected with him on LinkedIn. Yeah, and his office, he used to do if you watched his DVD, he did advertising after he got fired the first time, or ad sales, whatever, and his office was like a 10-minute train ride from my apartment, not even. And
that's cool.
Yeah, and he lives in my brother-in-law's neighborhood in Scarsdale. So
that's cool.
Shout out to Paul Heyman, my LinkedIn connection.
One of the greatest for sure. All right, let's dive into a handful of Bills training camp. I want to use the word potentially juicy storylines. I know you are not. I say this with sarcasm, like when I ask you what camp storylines are going to excite you, and I know the answer is going to be none, zero. So I want to make sure I phrase this the right way. We'll talk about.
Hold on there, Tiger. Hold on. Okay, let's stop taking my heat. Let me speak on the training camp like love. Okay, over here.
Go ahead.
Stealing my heat as always. I put words in my mouth. And look, there are some storylines I'm intrigued by. I will hate them as they progress because people on the Bills Twitterverse, X, whatever you want to call it, will make it end all be all every day, which will be annoying. And then they'll talk about the 5th string, 7th string guy and like he has a shot when no one knows that. But there's some intriguing stuff I'm interested in seeing, but reading about. It will be annoying because you can't really read about it because the Bills have so many weird rules. Like I'd like to know how many wide receivers are on the field during most of their practices or their plays, and they can't say that. So we have to just be like, Keon Coleman had a great practice. Okay, great. Was he in a 3 tight end set, a 2 tight end set? Like you don't know the formations, which is kind of annoying, but whatever.
Yeah, you can't talk formations. I don't think you could talk or have snap counts or things like that.
Yeah,
but,
only the cover one guys
and things like that.
Only the cover one guys who I'm sure are going to have a giant sleepover party at St. John Fisher somewhere are going to
they'll be there.
They'll be there. I'm sure. I've been off Twitter a lot this week because I was in Buffalo for a few days and I came back just yesterday, so I wasn't really immersed, but I am going to assume they're having a sleepover party. So mazel tov.
Well, whether it's cover one, the mainstream media, this show, wherever it may be, some of the more intriguing storylines I kind of want to hit on and get some thoughts from you.
Yes.
And I want to start with that.
We haven't talked about any of these storylines before.
Well, yes. I mean, bro, I know, but now we're only like a couple weeks away from camp.
Thank
so
God. At least we got something, maybe a little
feel
new.
Like it matters now, whereas, up until this point, it's just like, how can we kill some time? But, you can only come up with so many all-time.
We could do another Anchor sports draft. We could do a media draft again. The worst ones. Everyone wants us to do it. We should do it.
The worst ones? The worst?
I told you we should do the worst ones. And like the hell with this training camp coverage. But no, I get it. People got to pay the bills around here. Golf Dojo doesn't want media drafts. I got you. Okay,
got it. Exactly. 100%, man. Let's dive in. Let's start with the wide receiver, the room, actually, because to me,
my favorite
I feel like
it's like the whole room.
How the wide receiver position shakes out is going to be a big part of camp. I know the top 3 are pretty much set in stone, whatever order you want to put them in. That doesn't really matter because there is no number 1 receiver on the team. Not right now. There isn't anyway. And I think Matt Collins is pretty solidified as the 4. But after that, man, you got MVS, you got Claypool, you got Justin Shorter, a 5th round pick from last year who's hurt, didn't play last year. KJ Hamler. And your boy Andy Isabella, he's in the mix as well. So you got
blue collar.
You got
high
5
motor.
guys. You got 5 guys. If you say MVS, Claypool, Shorter, Hamler, Isabella, you got 5 guys right there competing for 2, maybe 3 spots, but probably 2. I don't see them keeping 7 receivers. So 2 to 3 spots. That to me is going to be interesting for these guys, at least anyway. I know you think you're of the mindset. And you've talked about this many times. Training camp doesn't really ultimately matter. Every year there's training camp darlings. You don't amount to shit when it matters. You're not wrong. You're not wrong. But I would say this much for those guys that I just mentioned, every single training camp practice is going to be important. Yes? No?
Maybe, possibly. I don't know. Like, look, I've said this before, especially with a Sean McDermott training camp where they have fans there. They treat that whole thing like it's a Colbert operation, like we're invading Afghanistan. And they can't literally they're not gonna run like their best plays or anything like that. And they're not gonna show too much. And I think they already kind of know who's gonna be their guys. Just like they know that Bobby Babich is, if he's gonna call plays or not, they already probably know that by now. You know, so I just think it's
training camp storyline, by the way.
Maybe they may immediately. Yeah, yes, that's gonna be and we're never gonna find out because no one's gonna know until ever. They probably won't know until like middle of the season, or Adam Schefter will have something the day of, and everyone will pretend all your buddies on the wing beat will be like, "Oh yeah, we knew that all along," and they didn't say anything because Boyko would have revoked their golf pass. But I digress. Yeah. So like, I think they already know what their wide receivers are in terms of like the guys you just named. I don't buy Andy and Isabella. I think he would have came up on the roster last year. He really didn't when they had some wide receiver issues. I think he's just a camp bro.
I don't know about that, and I'll tell you why.
Why did he like a tweet? Did he eat blue cheese?
No. We're throwing out camp storylines though that could be intriguing to follow. And Andy Isabella, a year ago, I would have agreed with you. If things were the same as last year, I would 100% agree. Why I don't agree is, again, which is another kind of like training camp storyline I'm looking forward to seeing unfold, I should say, is kick returner because of the new rule. There are going to be a lot more kick returns now than there were before. So Andy Isabella does return kicks. He could return punts. I think the new rule helps him go from having like no chance of making this roster to a feasible chance if he has a really impressive camp in preseason, I think.
All right, but you're not going to just keep a wide receiver. I don't think just to return kicks like him. You would want like a younger guy who can at least kind of play at least some starting snaps. But yeah, I guess it's notable that he could do that.
But even without him in the mix, even if you're right and he's got no chance, just that MVS, Claypool, Justin Shorter, that's probably 2 guys, 3 spots. You know what? I'm going to take MVS out of that. He's making this roster. If he stays healthy, he's making this. Chase Claypool versus Justin Shorter, your 6th receiver. They got to play special teams. They both play special teams. That could be a legitimate fun battle to watch. Every practice is going to be important to those 2 guys for sure.
Yeah, I think it's going to be important for those. I think I mean, if you want me to be intrigued by those guys, I would say Short is probably the guy because like they do Justin like Shorter? Their own guys. Yeah, Shorter. Yeah, sorry, did I say Short? My bad, dude. I would say him possibly could make it in terms of like he's a guy they drafted, but you never know. He could be Isaiah Hodgins, and then they don't care. They don't give a crap about him. He left, and they never
5th round guy. They're not married to him, but yeah,
they're not. I'm not, I don't know what I'm intrigued like with the wide receiver room. I think it's more or less, are they going to go to 12 personnel a lot? Are they going to go 3-4 wide receivers a lot? That's where it really depends on how they're going to do it. And obviously, look, they took a big blow to the wide receiver room last year. Like none of their, like they just did. I don't care.
Their top 4 receivers from last year were 4 of their 5, I should say. My bad. Shakir's still here, but yeah. Davis, Stephon Diggs, Hardy, Sherfield, they're all gone.
Yeah, and I think Gabe Davis would, and I'm not a Gabe Davis fan. I think Gabe Davis would be better, is better right now than any of the wide receivers on this roster. And I'm not. Who do you think's better than him? Who? Curtis Samuel? I mean, maybe ish. I can't slam the door. I mean, I get why you might think that, like, oh hey, Samuel put up decent numbers with shitty quarterbacks, but Gabe Davis did have better games than him. He's had a better career.
So I can't statistically provide any evidence to say Shakir, but I think Shakir is a better receiver. I think he will be this year.
Okay, yeah. I mean, Shakir, sure. I actually kind of forgot about him because we were talking about the ragtag guys. But it's definitely, like I said, it is a bunch of dudes, and it's not very exciting, that wide receiver room. And I've seen enough training camps where like these younger guys look good and they don't do anything. And, I don't know anything. Like, how much is Keon Coleman going to play? Like,
That's a big thing too.
Yeah, this is a big thing. Like, I don't know. Sean McDermott, I've said this before, I'll say it again. When it comes to rookies, he's usually all over the place when he plays them from day one.
Absolutely.
Other times he doesn't. Everyone had Elam being the number 2 cornerback or whatever a couple years ago, and he didn't play at all,
Right.
and that's it. Like, we don't know. So I don't know how Coleman's going to be.
I'm glad you brought him up. I'm glad you brought him up. He might be, how they use him at camp might be one of the most intriguing storylines, because I just told you a few minutes ago, in terms of the roster, Kaiir, Samuel, and Coleman are mortal locks. But in terms of being receivers 1 through 3 on the field, I don't know that it's a given week 1 of his rookie year that Keon Coleman's that third receiver. It could be very well Curtis Samuel kind of playing that Diggs role. And it could be, who's the guy up there? Oh, MVS, kind of having that Gabe Davis vertical threat outside role with Kaiir more in the slot, where you can interact with those two. Coleman might not be the third receiver. And one good thing about camp is you'll start to see how many reps he's getting. Is he out there with the ones more than he's out there with the twos? So that's going to be something worth monitoring, because I agree with you, man. I do not think that Keon Coleman being a top 3 receiver on his team this year, at least to start the year, is a given.
Yeah, and look, there is some evidence. I mean, you could go to the Wayback Machine and go to 2017. They had Zay Jones, a second rounder. He played from day one, and he was terrible, and he played still. Yeah. They ran him in there, and that their depth chart in 2017 was not very good at all. And then you go to Gabe Davis. Gabe Davis, they kind of moved in a little bit, but he was always like that 4th wide receiver for the rookie year, and he had those touchdowns, and he was a nice complimentary guy. That's the problem. Like, we don't, when it comes to wide receivers, because they ignored the wide receiver rookie position in terms of us pumping up the 5th, 6th rounders for training camp, we don't know how they're going to do it. I got to throw this guy in right away or not. You can go in any direction. I think if you want to put a gun to my head and go, hey, you got to predict something, because I don't want to, we're in yes or no world. I think Coleman's going to play. Like, I think they're going to have him start. I feel, because the depth is not there, and I think there's going to be guys who, I think, you talked about this before. Now, and it was a very astute observation, how they want to prove to Stephon Diggs and everyone who are like me, who are like,
absolutely,
I miss you, Stephon Diggs, come back to us, that they want to prove that they made the right deal. And how do you prove that you made the right deal? The guy that basically kind of replaced him in a way, you give him targets. You get him on the field and go, hey, we didn't need this guy. We got this guy who wears Macy's jackets, and he's everyone loves him. And and I think they really want to prove that point and get him on the field, so they can kind of say, look what we did. There's ego involved. If you ask them, Coach McDermott's not going to say that, but I think it's there. And they would love to just shove it in people's faces and go, hey, look, Keon Coleman's our number 2 wide receiver. We'll just say, look what he's doing. I think they're going to want it. They're going to want him. They have their favorites, I think, and they're going to want to prove it with him.
That's a good point, and it very feasibly could happen. I'm of the mindset, though, right now, and this is one of the things I think we'll start to see.
You got Kaiir as the number 1 wide receiver of all time. No, it's not
that. I'm thinking when it comes to Keon Coleman specifically, I'm talking about, and I think of Gabe Davis, but I don't think of the last 2 years Gabe Davis. I think of first 2 seasons Gabe Davis, when he was like the 4 receiver. I was looking it up while you were talking. His rookie year in 2020, he had 35 catches for 599 yards and 7 touchdowns. I feel like that could be the type of season you see from Keon Coleman. Maybe he's the 4th receiver to start. I think MVS
depends.
MVS might be out there before him early on.
It depends. It depends. I mean, you bring up 2020. That was a year they threw the ball everywhere.
Yeah,
they are not. I don't think. I don't know about this year. I feel they want to have. They want to have more of a balanced attack. You're not throwing the ball as much. You're going to want guys. You're going to want to save your defense. You want the 12 personnel is going to be a thing this year. I know people. I was probably one of them that wasn't I kind of was a fan of it. Like, it could be like New England 2013, but it wasn't. But I think those. I don't know if he can get to those numbers as like the 4th guy, because again, I think they're gonna ground it out a little bit more this year, which I'm thrilled to have happen. I can't wait.
I know how
thrilled. Ball control offense, OJ Simpson 2.0 without the murder rap. Can't wait.
I know you're excited about that.
Sign me up. No, I'm kind of messing with it. I mean, I do think they're going to run the ball more. I don't think it's going to be.
We're going to talk about that in a minute too.
Yeah,
I want to get.
Well,
I'm
going ahead. Well. I do my own shit in my ring, buddy.
You got to get your own. You got to get all your moves in here.
Yeah, I go rogue. We call it in the ring, man. We call it. We don't do. We don't rehearse it beforehand.
But I am seriously though. Before we get to a break here, I am glad that you did bring up Keon Coleman because I think he might be one of the most interesting people to keep your eye on at camp. If he looks good, he's going to start. Absolute no question about it. He's going to have an opportunity, is what I'm saying. But he's not just going to be handed a top 2 or 3, even 3 receiver role to start this team. A, because they don't have a true alpha number 1 right now to begin with. And B, they took him with their first pick, but they traded down twice, all right? And then they took him to begin the second round. If they had moved up for like a Dunze or Neighbors, or maybe even Brian Thomas Jr., your boy started week 1. No questions asked about it. But in this case, with what this roster looks like, I don't know that it's a given that Keon Coleman is going to see the field a ton early on. And again, I keep saying Matt Collins' name. He's done some things before in his career. 2 years ago,
love that Collins guy, man.
He was good. Matt Collins was good with the Raiders 2 years ago. He didn't do anything with Atlanta last year.
Talking him up.
Yeah, so I just think that how Keon Coleman looks at camp is going to be one of my favorite things to keep an eye on, and where he's lining up and how many reps is he getting when Josh Allen's the quarterback and not Mitch Trubisky.
We're going to see. I think he's going to play a lot. I'm going for play a lot guy. Obviously, look, maybe in training camp there will be stuff that comes out and it's like, oh, he's not even getting in the field. He's with the threes. Like someone will say something, but I just think for what they did with Diggs, and they want to prove that trading Diggs was the right decision. We got this guy, and we have Josh Allen who can make average wide receivers into really good ones, etc. That they're going to want to really prove that. And this is the time to do that in terms of if you're going to start a rookie, like a second rounder at any position on this team, wide receivers where you do it because you need it. There's not that much depth there. And you have Josh Allen who we think, again, we don't know. It's weird because they've had like the same wide receivers for a long time. We think he can make the most out of other wide receivers. Like you're supposed to be that elite quarterback who can, hey, I don't need a first rounder to do my thing. I can, I don't need this is what they're thinking. I don't need Stephon Diggs to be great. I can make this guy great. So we'll see. That's why I think he's going to start. He'll be that number 2, number 3 guy. He's going to like number 2. I mean, like your boy Shakir is definitely going to be there. Obviously, I think you pencil him as number 1. And then I think it's going to be Coleman as number 2. And then we're going to run the ball 500 times. Can't wait.
Back with Joe from Queens, going over some of the more intriguing, possibly even exciting Bills camp storylines coming up over the next couple of weeks. You kind of mentioned this before, the offense. I am looking forward to watching camp to some extent to see if this is going to be what I suspect will be an even more balanced offense than it's been in previous years. One other thing, too, regards to the offense and the wide receiver position room again, isn't it feel strategic to you? So they lose Stephon Diggs, and they kind of, I'm not saying they replace him with Curtis Samuel, but the same type of build, same type of size, kind of player. But from beyond that, they signed Matt Collins, who's a big receiver. They signed MBS, who is a big receiver. They used their first pick to draft Keon Coleman, who is a big receiver. Chase Claypool is a pretty big receiver. Justin Shorter is a pretty big receiver. They got a lot of size at wide receiver right now. It feels strategic to me. I still don't know how or why yet, but it definitely feels strategic. Like I don't think it's a coincidence that they got that many bigger receivers on the roster this year. It tells me maybe they're going to run the ball more, just more ball control over the middle. I don't know, but it feels strategic to me, the wide receiver room right now.
Well, I guess the question is why? Like, why are they going bigger? Now, if you watch them in the beginning, I'm talking like 2017, 2018, they had big wide receivers. Like Kelvin Benjamin was big. Zay Jones was kind of big. Like they, and then if you look at the Carolina, blueprint from when they were there, they had big wide receivers. Hence, Kelvin Benjamin there.
Yeah.
They went away from that, and I don't know why. They went away from that. It was successful to have smaller guys, and now they are back to that. Now, you can say, well, maybe you equate bigger wide receivers as being better run blockers down the field, which of course goes into they're going to run the football more. With that said, though, there are smaller wide receivers who can still block pretty well. Like Gabe Davis was a great running back or a great wide receiver
blocker.
blocker. Yeah.
Sure.
And he wasn't a giant, I think, I think it's more of a mentality. There are small guys. Steve Smith was an awesome run blocker, and that dude's smaller. So, you can look into that. I don't know. I mean, it could be Josh Allen wants a bigger wide receiver. Look, whatever Josh Allen wants, Josh Allen's going to get.
It just feels weird. It feels weird because the book on Josh Allen has been he excels with quick guys off the line who get open quick and he gets them the ball quick. Stephon Diggs, Cole Beasley, Emmanuel Sanders for a few minutes, John Brown. And when they signed Curtis Samuel, it's that's the type of player, that quick separation off the line of scrimmage guy. But ever since then, it's just been bigger, slower, maybe not the greatest route runners, but more physical receivers who can make catches in traffic. And
I don't know.
It just feels weird to me. And again, this is another thing I want to see at camp. What are they really doing with these receivers?
It could be a Joe Brady thing. Maybe Joe Brady wants bigger wide receivers, and he's like, I want bigger guys, where, he can have jump balls. I saw someone tweeted this is the only time I was on Twitter this week, and they had something where the Bills had the fewest, what was the word I'm looking for? They had 9 defensive holding calls against their wide receivers this year, which was the fewest in the league last year, excuse me. So they never drew holding calls. So maybe they think that's another thing. Hey, if you're a bigger guy, wide receivers are doing a jump ball, the cornerbacks are going to try to take you down a little bit more, and that's where you can get holding calls. But I found it to be an interesting stat that just didn't draw a lot of defensive holding calls with wide receivers, and they threw the ball. So I don't know what that entails, but
it's just fascinating, man. It's just fascinating because Josh Allen has statistically done better with the quick receivers and getting rid of the ball quick, and now he's got a bunch of bigger. I don't want to say slow receivers. I don't necessarily slow. Can't call him a slow. He plays faster than his 40 time. It just, I don't know. Then they drafted a pretty physical running back in the 4th round. It's are we ready to play some smash? Are we ready to be like the Baltimore Ravens right now or something?
Oh God, maybe whatever. Win games, I guess. Look, they could, as I said, they could just. I don't think they don't make this move to bigger wide receivers until they ask Josh, and Josh may
sure.
So and look, how big Shakir? Shakir's not a big guy, right? No,
no, I don't think
he's
a small guy.
They could still have Shakir and MVS and Coleman as their guys, and that's not a giant wide receiver. Let's not drool over Chase Claypool yet. I know he was the camp.
Who's drooling over him? I don't think he's gonna be.
Well, no, I know you're not. My apologies. I don't mean to do that.
I don't think he's.
I complain about, but I'm saying they draft some of these guys they got flyers on. There's a good chance that they may not have that opening day. They could, 100%. Like I said, MVS is not a big dude. I don't think he is. No, he's not. Yeah, he's not
he is a big dude. He is.
How big is he?
He's 6'4". He's a 6'4" receiver.
Okay,
he's a big boy.
Okay, maybe I don't know what I'm talking about. You know what? Fine. Maybe that was just the free agent market.
He's a taller Gabe Davis in a way, man. He's not a good blocker like Gabe Davis, but he's a little bit better burner down the field. He's bigger. He dropped the ball
catch during the regular season.
Hey, he can't catch the ball worth shit at least during the regular season anyway. Yeah, so but then he's got plenty of Gabe in him. But for sure, I don't know. I think this is going to be a far more balanced, much to the approval, of course, of Sean McDermott. I just think this is going to be a football team that likes to run the football more now.
I mean, we've been saying that. We've been saying that. We've been saying that for all the offseason. I've been thinking it since Dorsey got canned, and that's what they did a lot of. They balance it out.
Balance is going to be a big
that's
word.
going to be the key. I mean, it's going to be the key, and I think it's going to be one of those things where, when the 4th quarter hits and it's a close game, maybe they go, okay, Josh, go do your thing. But I think they want to, and for a couple of reasons I've gone over. They want to protect the defense. I think John McDermott loves that stupid defense. He wants to protect them. He doesn't want to go. He doesn't want to air it out and have all these wide receivers. And he wants to. I think he wants to control it, give his defense a breather. It's kind of like they did it in the Chiefs game. Like I think that's like what they want is a game plan where they're just going to keep the other team off the field.
It worked. It should have worked. It was working. The defense couldn't make a stop. And
defense couldn't make a stop, and guys drop passes. But I still would rather have my top 3 quarterback in the league throw for more than 189 yards and throw more.
Sure.
But
I get that.
I don't know. But that's what they may look. It might be like they want to change it up, and all that sort of stuff, and all the crap with like the safeties are playing deeper now, and maybe they want to run it more because the safeties are playing deeper, and that's kind of a big thing if they can't figure out how to beat, the safeties deep. But
let's jump to the defensive side for a minute here too, because a storyline that I'm really looking forward to seeing is how Kaiir Elam, you mentioned him, how does he look at camp? Because right now he's your third corner, and by third corner, I'm not talking Teron Johnson, not the slot guy. He's your third boundary corner right now. Rasul Douglas is starting, period. Christian Benford, 99% sure he's starting. He was really good last year. Kaiir Elam's your third right now. If he looks good, Brandon Beane probably feels confident enough to have him be that third going into the season. If he doesn't, if he struggles, if he continues to have issues, and I remember last year at camp, he would look like a Pro Bowler one day and a scrub the next, quite frankly. I can't think of a better word, but he was terrible at times. And, if he doesn't look the part and he doesn't look like someone you could rely on to come in, because he will come in and play at some point, Brandon Beane's going to have to turn to the trade market because they don't have anybody else. There is no Josh Normans. Dane Jackson was one hell of a safety blanket the last couple of years because he's a guy who could be your backup or he could play if he had to, and he doesn't kill you. If Kaiir Elam isn't at least as good as Dane Jackson was, or consistent, I should say, going to be looking in the trades before the season starts. So how Kaiir Elam looks to me is going to be one of the more notable things at training camp.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't have much faith he's going to do much of anything. I think he would have been on the field more last year when they had injuries. He played.
Well, he's got a new number, though. Now he's number 5 instead of 24, and he says he likes that. So he's played better with 5, I guess.
Oh, great. You got Trent, get your Trent Edwards jerseys out and duct tape Elam on the back.
He's made plays when he's played, though. It's weird because he's made plays. It's just there's something about him that Sean McDermott does not trust. And that is obvious. And he's very handsy.
I'll just say this. Look, they have found cornerbacks everywhere. So like you and I, you can sit there and go, oh, well, they'll trade for a guy. Not so fast. They could just have a camp bro all of a sudden look good and be like, that's our third cornerback, in terms of on the outside. It's happened. No one had Benford being like the guy.
They got Ingram now. He's played a little bit,
no one had some of these guys that they've played like Dane Jackson. Like no one had these guys. Like
Levi Wallace for that.
Yeah, and I think that McDermott likes to coach him up. Not stupid cliche, but he does. So I wouldn't.
Sure.
I wouldn't all of a sudden be like, well, they got to trade for another guy. I could see them trading Elam and being like, this ain't going to work. Let's just give some, like the Cody Ford got, like when he got traded, like a little bit of that, when they traded him for like a 5th rounder, maybe they pull something like that. Like, hey, let's get some more picks. But
I think
they don't think he plays.
I think they get a veteran corner in the trade market.
I don't
or maybe a guy.
I think they're done. I don't think so.
Dude, CB3 is an important position because again, you can't count on Benford and Rasul Douglas starting all 17 games, both of them. Something happens along the way. I don't know how I feel about Kaiir Elam. I think he's got the skills to be good, but there's just if it hasn't clicked by now with Sean, I don't know that it's going to. I'd like to be wrong. I mean, it sucks. You got a 1st round guy who just, quite frankly, is a bust. And he's gonna. I think he'll get a chance though. So again, going back to the camp thing, it's going to be intriguing because he's got to have a good camp. He can't get away with having a so-so camp. If he has a so-so camp, they're going to find someone else. They're going to make a trade.
Well, and again, so I don't know what constitutes the so-so camp. Like again, these guys. Fine. I mean, I still think a lot of these guys coast a little bit and they're just like, we just want to get hurt. But
not a Kaiir Elam, not a
sure.
Stephon Diggs, a Hey, Josh Allen, sure, they could coast.
Sure.
Deion Dawkins, he could take camp off. He ain't going nowhere.
I don't think he's in the cards. I think he would have been in the cards by now, and he's going the Cody Ford route where he's going to get traded. I really do. I think he would have played by now, and they will find diamonds in the rough. I'll say this. Let me ask you this, because we haven't really talked too much. Whatever happened to, like, after the Trey White money, like, left, like, after June 6th, like being active and signing guys, like, that was like everyone was kind of counting, not everyone, but like it felt like this unofficial like countdown, like this is gonna. I saw all these like Ted DiBiase memes of like, oh, he's everyone like he's gonna be him, and then he did nothing. And I'm just
two things with that. Number one, they ended up signing MVS and Chase Claypool in May after the draft, and Dwayne Smoot too, the defensive end.
Sure, but it didn't go. It wasn't after the salary.
Right. But I'm saying that's 3 roster spots that they filled before June 1st.
Well, I'm just saying
that they have the room right now. If they go into camp and Kaiir Elam shits the bed, or Matt Milano, more on him in just a second, he gets hurt again. He ain't right. Something's wrong, and they got to go into the market and sign somebody. And there's actually still a couple good free agents, named free agents at least out there, or they got to go into the trade market. I think they got about $11 million in cap right now. And that's with the rookie class signing. Don't quote me on that for sure, but I feel like I'm close to that.
Brandon,
so they do have the ability
to trade.
Go ahead. They might still do something, but I was surprised. I was expecting something after June 1st, even with MVS, Claypool, and Smoot, and it didn't happen. So for sure, a little bit surprising. I mentioned Matt Milano because that's the other intriguing to me defensive storyline. How's he look? Because he got hurt a long time ago. You're going back to week 4 in London against Jacksonville. And I know you don't give a shit about OTAs and minicamp, and for the most part, I don't blame you. But one thing that was notable is that you're talking even in May, Matt Milano still was only practicing on a limited basis.
No, that
still wasn't out there 100%. So now, camp starts in a couple weeks. If he's anything less than 100%, right around the time they start getting into the thick of camp, then that becomes a big concern of mine. So that's something I'm definitely going to be. He'll be one of the first guys that I'm looking for when I'm in the stands looking out on the field at camp.
Yeah, that's definitely a worry, and in terms of him getting back to what he's supposed to get back to. And you look, he's going to be he was born in 94. So at the start of training camp, he's going to be 30. Mm-hmm. And this is a guy who, he's not the biggest guy in the world.
No.
He's 6 foot, 223 pounds. He's had some injuries. That's my biggest, I would say, like, there's worries, but like, that's one of those, like, man, they need him back. And I'm looking at Father Time a little bit there and wondering if he's about to hit a wall because of injuries, because of his age. And that's something, like, because they've kind of cleared the veterans of the deck. They have a different defense now. New parts are there now. Mm-hmm. That's a big deal in terms of like what he means to them. And I worry that you never know. Like, he's 30 now and he's a smaller linebacker. He's played, like, I know I said he's been injured here and there, but he has started since day one. Like, they have penciled him in, and it worries me a little bit that, man, why hasn't he come back at all? Like, OTAs, you're right. Like, didn't have to like
it's go been out like there 7 months since he got hurt, man. It's been
it's been a while.
7 months,
and it wasn't
like not quite 100%. That's a long time.
And there was, like, I talked to this about before. There was always like these, maybe he comes back at the Super Bowl kind of bullshit, and like, and because they were kind of not, they didn't talk too much about it, but then they finally said, like, he's out, like, in middle of December. But like, it's something that I would definitely keep an eye on, in terms of it, but more so for the long term of this team. Like, he's a guy who's, I think if Matt Milano didn't have such a great year in 2022, like, Tremaine Edmonds is here instead of Matt Milano. I really do. I think they would have. I think they were probably counting on him to maybe slip a little bit because of his age, because of like the wear and tear, and he didn't. And they were like, we're gonna go with Milano instead of Edmonds. And I think that's just my opinion. I could be completely wrong. I just think he so overachieved what their expectations were. They were like, all right, we got to lose this other guy. And with that being said, that he's a pivotal part of it. And again, he's going to be 30, and It worries me a little bit.
He looked as good as he's ever looked in his career in the first month of this past season. And that was coming off an all-pro 2022 season.
Sure.
To your point, he's critical. He's straight up critical to the success of the defense. Maybe not so much in October, November, when you're playing weeks 9 through 13 against, the Jaguars and the Bengals, even during the regular season. But I'm talking about the playoffs. When everything's on the line, you need Matt Milano out there. You saw it in the Chiefs game and then in the postseason. They need him there. And then in terms of, probably the last thing I want to cover here, in terms of positional battles, training camp battles, not a lot of them. Probably only one in terms of who's going to start at strong safety. And I kind of hit on this in previous episodes, but I'll be locked in on Taylor Rapp. And can he hold off the second round rookie Cole Bishop? I think Cole Bishop's going to have a role regardless of whether he starts or not. But again, on a team that doesn't have a lot of starting jobs up for grabs, I would say Taylor Rapp versus Cole Bishop is going to be pretty interesting and fun to watch.
Yeah, I mean, Rapp didn't play much last year, and Bishop's a guy they got in the second round. He fits that prototype.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what it is. He's just, I can see anyone drafted like in the second round, like in this day and age, like they could start very easily. That's like the optics are supposed to be that way. And Rapp was a guy who did not play at all last year, really. And I think they could just say like, yeah, like let's go with this guy if he's ready. I don't know. Yeah, they're not married to him. They're not married to him. And I think if push comes to shove and both are kind of even, they're gonna go with the kid. You know what I mean? They're gonna go with Bishop and go, hey, go and be the next Jordan Poyer or whatever, Micah Hyde.
Sure.
Do what you got to do. But
100%. And Cole Bishop,
that'll be a good matchup to watch, I guess.
Yeah, for sure. How good Cole Bishop, how quickly he seems to adjust to the NFL at camp will definitely be something fun and worth watching and keeping your eyes on during camp. Anyway, so before we wrap with a couple minutes of Sabres talk here, when you wake up on a Tuesday or Wednesday morning and go on Twitter X and all your favorite sports media members from the Bills beat are tweeting about practice and stories and things like that, is there anything
where they're going to golf this weekend?
what intrigues
their favorite chicken wing spots in Rochester for the third year in a row?
Is there anything else that like intrigues you about camp, about this team right now that we haven't really discussed? Like I said, you're going to see a lot of it because there's a lot of people who cover the team.
I'm glad I'm working. I'm glad I'm busy with my day job and being a dad that I don't have to log on as much to be annoyed by it. And I've been pretty quiet. I used to complain a lot more. I hardly complained last year because I was busy with a newborn, and now he's going to be a year old in a couple weeks. So
are you going to be complaining a lot about the media this camp?
No. I told you I wanted to be. I told you I got other. Look, if you look at my tweets this week, I've tweeted like twice this week. I'm just chilling, man.
There's nothing going on now. There's nothing to annoy you right now. You're going to get annoyed if Justin Shorter looks really good for 2 days and people are writing about him.
Me up. You're trying to get me hot and angry. Not going to happen. The only thing that will get me annoyed is when we see these stupid viral videos of Josh Allen doing a freaking handshake with Keon Coleman and everyone's trying to fight for it and all this crap. Those viral videos just annoy the crap out of me. And I don't care about your chicken wing or your golf game or any of that. But no, on a serious note, I'm curious how. Okay, and when I say curious, I'm being forced to be curious. Like a lot of the Bills beat guys are because they know this is all bullshit in training camp, but they have to play the game. So I'll play the game a little bit more. I'm curious about Tyler Bass. He did not have a great season last year. I'm curious how he's going to be. Especially look, he came off of, that kick in the Chiefs game gets easily forgotten. Like, hey, I mean, I get why, because like the Chiefs were going to go on the field next drive and win it, and I would have been cursing out McDermott even more. But, he missed a big kick. And then he turned off his social media because people were dicks to him, which, fine, I get that. But what's his psyche going to be like coming back? And he didn't have a great year, in terms of that. And I am curious about kickoff returner. Like, I know we talked a little bit. I hope it's not Isabella. I mean, if it is, whatever. But kickoffs matter now, like when they didn't before. And I'm really curious, like, who like, now I have to care about kickoffs. Where I don't know, it's been like 10 years. I haven't given a shit since Terrence McGee like retired. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. Like, it's just like because of the rule changes. So who's going to be that guy? Like, who are they going to like? Are they going to go and say
an unknown too? There is nobody set in stone right now. It could be one of 3 or 4 people.
I mean, or do they find some random dude and they're like, hey, we're going to have this guy do it? Like maybe Elam returns punt, or that's not that's punts, but kickoffs. I don't know. Like they could find someone randomly that they're going to like go into. And I'm intrigued by that a little bit. Because now that's a big deal. And kickoff returners, that's one of the things like in training camp, you kind of find them. That's where they're born for the most part, because it's like the scrubs a lot of times are the kickoff returners for the most part. And that's where you find them in camp or games. They're like, hey, give this guy a shot. So but definitely Taylor, because you did talk about that, but Tyler Bass, I'm curious a little bit about. I mean, and when I say curious, I don't really care, but I'm just to put on a show. Like I'm curious to see how he looks now, because he had an off year and
his contract would be really hard to get away from. So absolutely, look, if he comes out and he looks shitty in camp and he's missing kicks early on, maybe something's not right with him mentally. Kicking is out of like golf, it's like mental as much as physical. You know what I mean? So it's possible that something lingers, but his contract's going to be really tough to get away from, even if he is, for whatever reason. I don't expect him to be terrible, but if he is, still going to be hard to get out of that.
I'd also say the bigger thing too, and it's probably going to be impossible to judge because the guy's not going to this much because he's a veteran. Von Miller's impact, like, is he dead? How's he going to be? I mean, I don't know if you probably, the one thing I saw like the last week was him saying like he shouldn't have been out there playing, which I was like, yeah, no shit, you shouldn't have been out there. But like, whose decision was that? Like, did you realize that after you started playing that you shouldn't have been out there? Or did the team say, oh, you're ready, you can go out there and play? Because obviously we know he shouldn't have been out. He was not good at all last year. And this is going to be a big year, but they're not going to, because he's a veteran, it's not like they're going to sit there and be like, hey, buddy, you're going to play 30 snaps in this preseason game. Like, he's going to be, right. Every other day he's going to be like, oh, rest day. And like, you'll see him like maybe make a play. I'm sure we'll get a viral video of him doing a handshake with Ed Oliver or something.
Look, he's going to be important to this team with the pass rush, man. I mean, I've watched, I know what you're talking about with him saying, he shouldn't have been out there. I think him being a veteran, he had a lot more influence with what he says and feels about his body than, say, if that was Greg Rizzo, a younger guy, for an example.
Right.
I've also seen videos of him training recently, and he looks good. So, yeah, he might be. I mean, we didn't even talk about Vaughn until you just brought him up. He might be one of the most 2 or 3 intriguing parts of training camp right now. Does he look like the old Von Miller, or is he washed?
Well, again, I don't think we're going to know because I don't think they're going to play him that much. I just
think but how he looks in camp, you'll still.
But sure, that's a big thing. I mean, if I was a bro beat, I would like be looking at him if I have to be like, okay, let's see, because that's a big part of it. Because he is a big part of that defensive line. Like, he was great until he got hurt, and then he hasn't been good since. Sure. So if he gets back to what he was before, then great. And I think a lot of us, I mean, myself included, I'm counting him out. Like, it's over, buddy. Like, you're 34 off an ACL. But if he comes in like added bonus, and I'll put up with his terrible predictions, like predict all these terrible things, end of the world, sure, buddy. As long as you're getting sacks, you can predict whatever the hell you want.
I had Carl Jones from New Guy at Channel 4 on the show last Friday, and we talked about Vaughn, and I was kind of half expected him to have I don't want to say we were making predictions, but like kind of things in the camp that he's going to be locked in on. And Von Miller was one of them, and just didn't seem to have a lot of confidence that he's going to be anything more than maybe a guy who gets 4 to 5 sacks during the season. And if that's the case, if Von Miller is not injured again and he only gets you 5 sacks, that's probably
5 times more than he had last year.
It is, but that's probably not going to bode well for your record and for how your defense looks as a whole if Vaughn's essentially doing nothing, because they really didn't do anything to add to that position after losing Leonard Floyd.
I'll say this, and like, you made a really good point a couple times to me, and I made this.
I always make good points.
No, you don't. Not at all. But you made this one. Broken clock is right twice a day, and you were right when you said this. That I stole this take, and I was telling people at lunch the other day, like, when you look at the AFC, it's not there are not that many teams aside from the Texans who got super good this offseason.
Right.
And I think overall, and I'm getting a little bit of that hopium of like, I still think they're like a 10-win team, and I still think they'll be like a wild. They'll probably win the division, but I think they're still on that outside of the top 4. But I could see them making moves a little bit. Maybe it's the hopium, and it's also the
it's that time of year too.
Yeah, we're like 6 weeks away, and you start getting excited. I am, by the way, for anyone who cares, they probably don't. I'm trying to go to the opener this year. I need to I'm trying to, so I'm trying to do a Dad K vacation, whatever you want to call it. I don't know what the bros call it these days, but I would love to come that weekend and get white frat guy wasted and just have you carry me into the airport or someone. But I'm hoping I can make that happen. So.
Did we spend more time tonight talking about Bill's camp than you plan on spending talking about Bill's camp during Bill's camp? Like, are you still going to protest and
yes, I do not. I will only. I'm telling you, I don't want to come out because look, we didn't really talk camp. We just talked about like, oh, this is what we hope. Like this guy's going to look good or he's going to look bad. What I don't want is the end of the day. Like, let's do a camp recap report. Like, no.
You don't want to know how Matt Milano looked at practice.
No, I don't want to talk about that. I don't want to talk about how this wide receiver looks good or Andy Isabella looks good off their jogging. I'm sorry. Like I've watched football a long time and I've seen how these training camps work and everyone's in the best shape of their life. And we got a new system. And now with the Twitter machine, we got to get viral videos of handshakes and dick dancing. I don't care about that. So no, you're not getting me. That's when I get because we really didn't talk. Like if you listen to this conversation, it's like we were previewing like what are the things to watch in terms of being competitive. But I'm not going to watch it. Like sorry, America.
You're talking about things that are.
I'll ask you. No, because here's what's
like you don't actually want to watch it or talk about it. Yeah, basically is what you're saying. That's fair.
I just unless something giant happens. Look, will I watch a preseason game? Normally, my preseason rule of thumb is I watch like the first quarter when the starters are in, and then I turn it off. And I'm done. Like I don't care. Like, but even then, I don't really care. Like, I'm just done. But I'm not going to watch much of it. It's just impossible to get any sort of information from that. Every year, there's always like these young guys look good. They should get on the field, and they don't. But, there's not, the only time I ever like training camp or care is honestly probably quarterback competitions. Like that's the only time that I think you should give a shit because that's
you ain't getting that. You ain't getting that.
Yeah, we're not getting that for another 10 years probably. But
yeah, you're not even getting you're not even getting a QB2. Last year was a little talk about a QB2 competition with Kaiir Elam and Matt Barkley, and both of them were terrible. And then Elijah Barkley got cut. Unfortunately, Kaiir Elam was nothing more than
we got Josh's best friend is back, so we got Mitch. God help us if he gets on the field. We'll be running the ball 70 times a game. But I'm intrigued. I'm looking forward to it, and I need to know when am I coming on during the regular season. I need to prepare. Like, am I coming on after games? Like, because this is Sunday night. Am I? Or you got me on? You got me on Thursday. We're gonna be like, so we can't talk about the game, so let's talk about nothing. I'm gonna be like, great. I'll be like, awesome.
The dreaded stuck in the middle Thursday spot.
Yeah, I hate when you put me.
It's too early for a real preview of that game, and it's too late to really talk much about.
Yeah, well, it would be like, so what are your expectations? But whatever, I can.
That's like being the second match at WrestleMania. You're not opening the curtains. Okay, main eventing's great, or being there to the end of the card. But when you're that second or third match, that's what a NFL Thursday. Whoever's on my show on Thursdays, I'm just joking with all this. No, but seriously, that's kind of what it is. It's like that second or third match on a wrestling card. It's like whatever. Anyway, listen. Before we get out here, real quick. I know, and you've been in Buffalo this week, and you're not much of a around the league hockey guy anyway. Like the players at the Sabres.
I followed the Sabres. Yeah, I don't know the guys they traded
from. Kind of some say you're like me. You're not really following the league. You're following the team. It's not like the NFL where we follow to some extent 30 other teams as well. Anyway, the Sabres have been busy, and I've already talked about the additions and stuff like that, so I really don't need to get into that. Plus, you don't really have anything to add about the players themselves, but you kind of get the feeling right now with the Sabres. It's like. With Kevyn Adams, damned if you do, damned if you don't. Signing players, you sign players. Well, they're not good enough. Well, make a trade, do something. We got a million different prospects in the pipeline. They trade one of them, Matt Savoe, and they get a third line center. And at least initially, I think fans calmed down as some of the more hockey, the smart people started throwing out stats and analytics to talk, that the guy they traded for McLeod is a pretty good center from Edmonton, a third liner.
Sure.
But anyway, fans are losing their shit. Oh, it's a trade. Oh, you gave up too much. You overpaid. Yeah, they did overpay because nobody wants to come here. You're going to have to get guys who have no trades. And other GMs around the league know that you're going to have to overpay to make a trade or to get a free agent to come here. You're going to have to way overpay them like they did, giving Jason Zucker $5 million for 1 year. He's probably a $2.5 to $3 million guy anywhere else. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of like the fan frustration right now from the Sabres. What's your pulse on it? Because to me, it feels as high as it's been at any point of this drought. Like no one believes in this team right now, even with Lindy Ruff as coach. And seemingly nobody wants to come here either.
Well, have there been reports of guys not wanting to come here? Because I went off a little bit of the beaten path. Are we just assuming it? Like, because I'm just curious. Like,
no one specifically that I've heard of.
Okay.
There is a rumor. I can't think of the guy's name. Nikas, I think it's the guy, the winger from Carolina, who could potentially be a top 6 guy that the Sabres have been linked to with trades. I saw somebody say something that he doesn't have a trade, but he's a restricted free agent. He wouldn't sign an extension if he came to Buffalo, is what was said.
So nothing's out yet. Maybe there's some chatter. I mean, in terms of how people aren't like happy, I don't blame them. I mean, this is what, year 13 of this bullshit.
Yes, 13 years.
It's like 13 years, and I think this is like the every offseason since Kevyn Adams has been in charge, it feels like this is going to be the offseason they're going to do a lot, and they don't. Aside from the Taylor Hall deal, during the COVID year. And I think people just get a little bit frustrated. In terms of like the moves they made, who knows if a prospect's going to be good or not? We don't know. Okay, Savoe, whatever. Like, I know he's like one of their top guys, and like getting a third line center who didn't play much. We'll see what happens. But I think what they're relying on the Sabres is they are thinking their top 6 forwards, who all were not very good last year, like in terms of they regressed a lot. I think they think Lindy Ruff or whatever, it was a sophomore slump, we'll just call it, and they're all going to get back to normal. And then and that's why they just didn't really do much with the top 6. And we also have to understand that Lindy Ruff has a giant say in what this roster looks like. And look, sure. I did not follow Lindy when he went to Dallas and New Jersey. I don't know how much he changed. I mean, he only coached I think 6 seasons there in total, maybe 7. I could be wrong, but for the most part, I could tell you, like Lindy from his Sabres days of when he was coaching here a decade ago, he liked to roll 4 lines. So like these guys like you have on the 3rd and 4th line are going to be important because he likes to balance it. Think of the Sean McDermott defensive line rotation of 10 guys. He wants guys like, I remember there were nights where I was like, why the fuck is Thomas Vanek playing just as much as like, whoever I'm trying to remember, like the gritty third, 4th line guy. Like, why? Like, that's how he is. He wants that gritty guy who's going to be down in front.
These guys, even without knowing much about these players that they've added, they're bigger and faster skaters, more physical bottom 6 type players than what they've had under Don Granato. So it's going to be a different style. I don't know. I'm certainly not going to say I feel bad for Kevyn Adams that he can't win with the fans. You bitch about a trade. You bitch about not trading.
He's a tool.
About overpaying.
He's a tool. I shouldn't say that, but like, look,
well, they got a right to be frustrated, dude.
They have a right, and like,
laughing stock.
I mean, yeah, they're laughing stock, and people I think wanted like. It reminds me of like the heyday. Like to me, Kevyn Adams is Darcy Regier without the playoffs. He's a guy that. Like he's been very conservative with all of his trades and going out in free agency and landing big fish. Darcy Regier really never did that until Pagula bought the team. They always talked about the pipeline and the youth and all these guys coming up, and like they didn't want to trade these guys. And I feel like that's a little bit of Kevyn Adams, but he did trade a guy. But you probably, if there's one thing I've learned from watching the Sabres and following the coverage and the fans. Everyone always overrates the prospects. I love you, Chris Baker. You're the man. I love you to death. Not really to death. Like you're a good dude, but he's got a good racket over there where like people love to hear about prospects, and a lot of times these guys don't sniff anything, and they're just guys who end up just toiling in obscurity, and that's it. And you don't hear, and they just get traded for like other guys, and you never hear like Grigorenko. I remember was like the next big thing of he was supposed to be the next Lemieux or whatever, and he stunk, and he was out of here in like 2 years. Other guys, stay around. Like, I don't know why certain guys stay around, certain guys get better. It's a crapshoot at the end of the day, in terms of that. But it seems to me what they want to do is they want to develop from within. They want these young kids to ride the bus and all that crap, go to Rochester, come here. It's cheaper talent. They did spend money. I mean, I guess you could say like they spent a little bit more. I mean, even though they did. I mean, look, they're paying Jeff Skinner to sit down. I'm sure you and Tone Pucks like chug beer to celebrate that move, which was kind of a weird move. I didn't really. I got it. Like, hey, you can save the cap space.
He's useless if he's not a top 6 player. He's useless, and I don't think Lindy Ruff.
Why can't he be a top 6 player?
Whatever.
I get that.
Lindy Ruff didn't see him. It has to
maybe
be.
it's a Lindy. I mean, it could be a Lindy. Yeah. I mean, Lindy.
His type of player.
Look, I'm a Lindy. I'm a Lindy Sabres historian because I did give a shit more back then. If you weren't playing defense, you were fucked. And that's it. And that's it. He's not tolerating that shit.
He's going to go score 35 to 40 goals playing with. He's playing with Connor McDavid on the first line.
He's going to rip it up, and he's going to win the Stanley Cup, and it's going to be like the 4th Sabre.
Him and Casey Middlestat, Western Conference Final, Colorado, Edmonton. You can book that right now in pen. One of those guys are going to go to a cup and win a cup.
But the guy they got the $5 million, what's his name again?
Jason Zucker.
I mean, he did have a couple good years, like goal scoring wise.
20.
Right?
I think he scored. He's 25 goals. I think was his career high. Maybe 27, but I think he's only on like more than 14. Besides that one other time, he's a third liner, but he might be a second liner on this team.
Like I said,
trying.
Yeah, they're trying.
They're trying. I mean, they've redone the whole bottom six. You
seem very like you want to like Kevyn Adams more, even though you were yelling about him at the start of this. But then
no.
Did the trade? So if we trade for the guy from Edmonton, that put you into you know what, he's trying. I like.
He's trying. I don't.
I'm
know.
going to pander to him. Yeah.
No, I don't like Kevyn Adams. Kevyn Adams is GM for his job. It is insane.
I hope you're right. He is.
If they don't make the playoffs and he still has a job 12 months from now, that will be fucking insanity if he's still the general manager. Complaining they got to get guys. We want guys who want to be here. Make them want to be here. Sell them. Do a better job as a GM of selling a guy who won't waive a no trade to come here. Make him understand why it would be a right decision. I mean, come on.
He might be my least favorite public speaker for the Sabres in a long time. Because all he does is he just talks with these cliches. We want people who want to be here. And then there's like an old expression, like, to get to your wrist, like to get to your elbow, you have to go under your wrist to get there. And that's kind of how he talks a lot. And he's kind of annoying. And he's just like, and he's always, I mean, he hasn't done it in a while. He used to always kiss the Pagulas' asses and be like,
he still does.
So happy to be with the Pagulas and work with them. And I'm like, shut up, dude. Like,
God forbid you question the Pagulas' commitment to spending money and winning. You're going to hear an earful from Kevyn Adams. I was pissed off at him last week because Friday before the draft, he was almost whining to the media. Hey, we're trying to make trades. Nobody wants to deal. It's hard to make a deal right now. Yada, yada, yada. Then they go and they sign literally 3 or 4 fourth liners. Man, Jason Zucker is a third liner, and he proclaims the roster is considerably better, markedly better than it was a year ago. I'm like, how? Why? You lost Jeff Skinner, you lose Gergensons, whatever. They're far from unreplaceable guys, but that made your team better. You got a bunch of fourth line guys. Whatever, man.
Well, like I said, I think they're expecting the top 6 to rebound. And look, if they rebound from what they were, if they rebound sorry to interrupt, if they rebound from 2 years ago, it's a playoff team because they got goaltending now.
Yep.
At least for now, like who knows what happens next year.
And their bottom 6 is better than it was last year.
And I think that's because again, the top 6 did not Tuck, Thompson.
Tuck. I expect Tage Thompson to play great if he stays healthy. It's about Tuck, Cousins, and Jack Quinn, and Peterka. Peterka looked really good last year. He earned top line minutes at the end. Is he going to build on that? Will we see 2 years ago Jack Quinn this year now that he's healthy? Dylan Cousins kind of sucked last year, to be honest with you. A lot of people say that he got in a fight early in the year and wasn't the same after that. And
yeah, and
Alex
that's what I
Kirk was
mean.
up and down, man. Those are the guys that are going to have to be better at the end of the day to make the playoffs. They're not going to get a great player to trade. Not right now. It's not happening.
No.
So,
like I said, we'll see. I mean, and I don't know who's coming up the pipeline, like who's going to be the next big thing for Rochester. I mean, they have the one guy who was the rookie last year. I'm sorry, who played well. Benson. Do they have someone
Benson?
like?
Yeah, all the Kulik is like probably their top prospect right now. Rosine is sort of there. The guy they just drafted, 14th overall, Elenius. They're saying he's.
I gotta start stealing hockey takes. You know, if you're gonna have me a regular on this damn podcast, I'm gonna have to start watching them more. And enough of this being a dad at night, and I'm gonna watch the Sabres and like I gotta get back into it. I was not as into it as much because I had a new kid, but hopefully, hopefully it'll be better. All right, let's done. We get out of here.
That's going to do it for this episode. Make sure you follow Joe on Twitter at Buffalo Wins.
Yeah, and just so everyone knows, in a couple of weeks, I'm taking my summer vacation because I'm not coming on here to talk about freaking training camp tonight. So there will be, you see that if you're watching on the video, exciting storylines of Waiting Bills camp. I won't be there for any of that for this podcast.
Well, I will be here with Anthony Marino. So talk to you guys.
Oh, that burrito guy.